Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Bool Boys podcast. I have Sebastian and Brian here in a rainy Hurricane Hillary type environment, Orange County. I'll just say I'm wildly disappointed by Hillary. Let's see what she can do tonight. But uh, how are you, Brian? You recovered from your officiating?
Yeah, I'm good. Similarly, a little bit disappointed with the most overhyped storm of the century, but the pundits are saying that tonight is when it will be. I mean, they were saying throughout the day also that that's when it would really ramp up. But I'm still looking forward to what the storm has to offer.
I mean, Hillary's letting us down is nothing new. That's all I'll say about that.
Yes, Sebastian. How are you? Recovered
Um,
from the Bull Boys barbecue and now just chilling. How's the fitness journey?
it's good, same old, same old. Bit sad that Argentina couldn't pull off the win in the Olympic pre-qualifying tournament against the Bahamian Dream Team composed of DeAndre Ayton, Eric Gordon, and Buddy Hield. But it is what it is. I mean, I guess the Bahamas has to buy their way into Olympic pre-qualifying tournaments, so that is what it. Yeah,
I mean, that is a pretty solid squad. He
yeah. I mean,
healed Aiton and
the last game
who
was
else was last?
actually Eric Gordon randomly. He
Okay,
switched
yeah,
allegiances.
that's
Yeah.
pretty
He
good.
he was the reason they won. He was making these incredible clutch step back threes late in the game. Because Argentina actually put up like a tremendous fight. My boy Carlos Delfino, Brian's favorite NBA 2K player, um, really
Fuck
was
that.
trying his hardest at 40 years old. He had like 15. Facu Campazzo played really well, but Bahamas just were too talented. I mean, they steamrolled through most of the competition, and then today was the final, and the game actually was closer than I anticipated, and Argentina had a few chances, but yeah, fell short, and so their Olympic dream is dead.
Yeah, I mean they're
I already heard that.
the veterans, right?
Yeah, it's like
Essentially,
the
and if you're thinking about Aiton, that's like a pretty young guy. That's
yeah, I would say
the
it's
young.
probably
The
like this.
Bahamas are the new young era, dude.
Yeah, this is like probably this group of Argentina players like last chance at like international glory. So felt bad for them because the tournament was hosted in Argentina, so like a lot of sadness in the crowd. But yeah, it was a pretty good day for like these FIBA Olympic pre-qualifiers. You had Croatia versus Turkey, so it was like Şengün versus Zubac, and Croatia came out on top in Istanbul. So like another home group losing, and then you had
I've been seeing the Şengün highlights go crazy.
yeah,
It's like he's always
he
crazy
Zoo
passes. He's always throwing crazy passes.
Good
Zoo did a
fantasy knowledge. Yeah.
yeah, Zoo did a pretty good job on him today. I mean, Zoo didn't have the best offensive game, but he did a good job of neutralizing Şengün. And then like you also had Bosnia with Nurkic, Dejan Musa, and Luka Garza lose to Poland, who doesn't have any NBA players from as far as I can remember. So yeah, a lot of like pretty surprising Olympic pre-qualifying results. So it was a good day of sports.
Yeah, that's generally something I'm noticing with the FIBA as well. Is that there's so many more names, NBA names, that even just recognizable. Obviously, somebody like Luca Garza is not super notable, but the
Yeah,
fact that you're like,
National
he's a
Player of
name
the
that you
Year.
can see. Right. But
Yeah,
that's exactly the fact that you can see that, and you're like, wow, like there's a lot of these teams have actually some decent talent on them.
yeah, it's pretty entertaining. Like you are just turning on a game because it like you see that it means something, and then you're like, oh wow, like Luka Garza's playing for Bosnia. His
Exactly.
mom, I believe, is like Bosnian or something. So yeah, pretty fun day of basketball.
Yeah. We got USA basketball and a FIBA tournament coming up as well. We'll talk
Oh
about that
yeah,
later
this
in the
is like
pod.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
teams that
So
didn't qualify for the World Cup. Yeah.
yeah. So basketball is coming back. Football is coming back. We've navigated the kind of the dark times in sports uh, pretty well, I think, and there'll be a lot. There'll be a lot. I'm looking forward to the time when we can just talk about soccer, football, basketball on a weekly basis in the pod. Won't have to worry about it. So it's coming soon. Well done, gents.
I've enjoyed
Uh,
it. I mean, there was enough to get me by.
yeah. Speaking of
Yeah.
which, we're going to talk about soccer really quickly.
Yeah.
Uh, start in Premier League. We'll just kind of do a top 5 roundup. I was looking forward to the game, and the Arsenal game tomorrow. Most of the other big teams already played, so we'll just go quickly through and get Steve's perspective. Brian, if any of these ring any bells with you and you heard anything about them, don't be afraid to chime in. But let's start with Man City. Man City Newcastle was a big game that happened this week. I'll let you go first, Steves. What do you think?
Just Newcastle got pretty close in the last 15 to 20 minutes or so of the game, but it was pretty whatever as a whole, I'd say, from both sides. And the one thing I just wrote down was, can it please stop? Because it just
What?
feels like, can City just please lose one of these games or lose some points? Because it just feels like they always find a way to get all three. And it definitely, in my opinion, wasn't their best performance, and they still took all 3 points.
Some people were calling it the Oil Bowl. Right,
That's
got a
not
lot
a
of
bad name.
yeah. Newcastle and Man City both have taken a lot of money from oil companies, countries that are known for their oil, and that's the reason why they're successful. So out of nowhere, seemingly. So there you go. On the pitch, though, again, I wrote a couple notes on this game. I watched it from start to finish. I was very excited for it. Alvarez again looks fantastic as the second striker coming in from the right. Kovacic, that signing from Chelsea was like an underrated signing. I don't think people thought about it a lot, but he's like the perfect 8-ball carrier for them. Like transitioning from defense to offense, he does it perfectly, and he always gets the ball out. So it was a very good signing by them and underrated. I fear him when we play him because I think he'll do it really well for him. Haaland looks a little bit isolated, kind of frustrated in this game
Yeah.
because he doesn't have the service with KDB. And would be kind of remiss not to mention Foden, who was the man of the
Oh,
match, who played a very David Silva-esque
Foden
type
was
of
excellent.
performance in between the lines. Yeah. And then on Newcastle side, Tonali had an off night, but the person who stood out to me as actually a poor performance was Isak. Isak.
Yeah,
Every time he got
Isak.
the ball and every time he got the ball and could do something to threaten them, he dribbled it out or had a poor touch. So I thought he had kind of a poor night.
They subbed him out. Am I wrong?
I think they did. They normally do,
I think
but
when
he
they
he
subbed
had a
him
brace
out,
last week. Yeah,
yeah,
go
he's
ahead.
a pretty good player, but when they subbed him out, they actually looked better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
it was that's an indictment of how he played in the game.
I think Newcastle will challenge for top 4. I think they'll take
Hmm.
Tottenham's spot to challenge. We can talk about Tottenham. Not yeah, Tottenham later on. But even though they won, Chelsea just lost to West Ham today. Anything on chat?
Uh, that was very fun.
I had a good time. Yeah, it was good for me.
I
I
mean,
just saw
I
Sebastian bust into a grin, and I was like, "What does
I
that mean?"
really enjoyed how the commentary kept constantly going, $1 billion in transfer over the last year, and this is what you get. Or just shades of whatever. They kept saying similar things to that. And I was just dying laughing because it was true. It was a pretty stark contrast to what I would say was a pretty good performance match day one. So yeah,
Yes, yes.
I mean I only caught the second half of this match, so I had to go back and watch highlights of the first half. But they just defensively were an absolute disaster. Caicedo didn't have a good match. He didn't look match fit.
He was really poor.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible, honestly. Uh, I'm interested to hear what you have to say on it,
Enzo missed a
honestly.
penalty.
Yeah.
Enzo missed a penalty. So a lot of bad things happened for them. Uh, that's exactly what my note said. Sebastian was for all the money they spent on the players, it still seems like Poch prefers this set of hardworking, gritty players,
Yeah.
and I don't know who they are. So I don't know their names. I haven't seen. I know any of the history. Caicedo had a bad game, but I think it's because he really wanted to play well. Going forward, I do fear that midfield pivot of Enzo and Caicedo. I think it'll be really dynamic and
Yeah.
they'll run really out. It'll be very hard to score on them. Enzo had a missed the penalty, yes, but he had a good game again. He's going to be a good good midfield talisman for them for a long time. Liverpool, anything?
I I didn't catch much of that game. I was watching. I think it was a 7 o'clock window on Saturday. I was watching more of the Bundesliga games
Mhm.
because the Premier League slate was kind of weak. But from the highlights I saw, it was better, but still whatever. I mean, it was Bournemouth, so I don't know how much you can take away from it. And they did concede first, so wasn't the most impressive performance.
Oh,
McAllister's red card was a pretty stupid red card for him to take.
I don't think we have to say much about Liverpool. I agree. I think what all we have to say about we said last week about them needing a defensive midfielder and McAllister not being a six, or
Hmm.
sorry, rather a five. He's like he can't play that position, and it proved it with the red card today. I
Yeah,
wanted to go back to Chelsea just to give Brian some context. So Brian, they were bought out by a American billionaire called Todd Bowley, and
Okay.
basically he took it over from a Roman oligarch who was basically I think
Russian,
forced for
Russian
selling
oligarch,
Russian,
Russian
sorry,
oligarch named
Russian
Roman.
oligarch, renamed Roman,
Yeah, I
yes,
was
Yeah,
gonna
named
say
Roman.
Roman oligarch. That sounds
yeah.
real exotic.
I messed that up, but Steve's got it right. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly what he
yeah. I
said.
got what you were
And
saying.
so I don't know if he was forced to sell or something, but basically this
Yeah,
American chap
kind of.
bought it, and he pushed $1 billion in the last like 2 or 3 years. He has no care for any type of he'll wildly overpay for players. He'll give them 7 or 8 year contracts instead of like the normal 4 or 5 year contracts. He's kind of being like sketchy with financial fair play, and basically they've spent more money than anyone. They're just really good at selling players, so their like net spend isn't that high, but they spend without abandon, and they've basically been sucking for the last 2 years. So it's very funny. That's why it's just the product on the field is not $1 billion product. So that's
No.
So
why we
it, so it's complete like has he just ruined the organization with his actions essentially?
It's
Was
very
it downhill from his taking over or was it
he fired a good
always
coach.
downhill? Oh, okay.
He
it
fired
was
2 coaches. One, both were kind of good to be honest. So yeah, good.
it started going
Potter wasn't as good,
downhill.
but good.
Potter was not good, but it started going downhill like when Roman Abramovich, the former owner's funds got frozen, and then they couldn't buy anybody, so they stagnated then. And then Bowley came in and overspent for everybody and didn't have any care for what he was doing. And it's just he's basically like a poor man's version of Roman Abramovich, their former owner.
And they have a lot of divas in the locker room now, and like
Yeah,
it's soccer. It's very like hierarchy and stuff, and so there's not a strict hierarchy. People don't know where to put themselves in. A lot of
you could
disarray.
compare them to
Uh,
another former Russian sports owner like Mikhail Prokhorov. Ironically, the way that they're acting now, like
the
it's very
Brooklyn
similar
Nets.
to like the Prokhorov era Nets and how disastrous they're handling their team construction. But
But do they
ironically,
have
it's
stars? Like the Nets have had stars.
They have a couple quality players that I would want
yeah,
on Arsenal for sure, but
yeah. I don't know
somehow
if they
they're
have a
not mixing together. And
yeah.
but good,
No, I
good
don't know if they
Sips.
have a true like global superstar.
They don't have a LeBron or a KD, but they
Yeah,
have a lot of
yeah,
like one tier belows, PGs type
yeah, something
player.
like
I
that.
guess, yeah, yeah. Um, quick last one on soccer for Premier League soccer is just Tottenham Man U. I watched this game as well. Well,
I
let me
love
go
that
first,
game.
Sips, on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great game. First half, not so much. Second half, it really became fun, and I really enjoyed it. So I'll speak about Manchester United first. They have a Mason Mount problem. 2 games in, they already can't really play him as a number 8. He should be playing as a 10. Bruno should be playing as the 8, but they've are insistent on playing him this way, and I think they're suffering before it. Or maybe Bruno can't play the 8. I don't know. Which is the box-to-box midfielder. So they have a significant problem there, and they need to fix it. They need a striker too. Rashford's not number 9. He doesn't like playing there, and his attitude was pretty bad during the game. I think they'll be fine or better than Tottenham will, but it was a bad loss for them, so I really enjoyed it. Anything on
Um,
Manchester for Manchester?
I really enjoyed the commentary coming out after the match from Roy Keane, where he said, "They're the new Spurs. They have no fight."
Yeah, yes.
And then
I
he,
really enjoyed
yeah,
it. Yeah,
it was
they're
one of the,
desperate. He said they're desperate, right?
yeah, they're desperate. Yeah, it's one of the like probably going to be one of the viral moments of the season, I'd say already. It just he was totally disgusted, and I thought it was very funny. And I mean, he was probably right. Uh, like you said, Rashford's body language was atrocious. He
Hmm.
definitely didn't want to be playing up through the middle like that, and just was very ugly. Um, they didn't have much fight. It was pretty bad performance, especially this early in the season.
There's talks of bringing Amrabat or something that also Liverpool are in for.
Yeah,
He's a former Ten Hag player, so we'll see where he goes to. Uh, for Tottenham, I see they will struggle to score goals. I don't see them really contending for top four. I think it was a good win for them. And then no matter how good of a coach this new guy is,
Ange
Ang
Postecoglou, get it right.
Ange, yeah,
Big
Ange,
Ange,
yeah, man,
love
it's
that guy.
Tottenham, and I don't think
Yeah, it's
okay.
unfortunate. It's like if Phil Jackson went and coached the Spurs, like the San Antonio Spurs, like that's how this situation is for me right now.
Yeah, I feel bad for you, but I have no sympathy towards him. So, but like, I don't. I think Basuma played really well. That's when that midfield played really well. Sarr and Basuma played really well, and they apparently there's that guy Bentancur who's coming back, and he's also apparently their best midfielder. So they have a good midfielder, but everywhere else they're deficient. And like I said, I feel like Newcastle is kind of take their place for this year and the next year, maybe on how well they restructure and kind of deal with the Kane fallout. Anything else
I,
on Tottenham, Siebes? We can move
I
on to Women's World Cup.
have been really impressed with Ange's halftime adjustments because I feel like back to back weeks they've come out and looked like a different team in the second half. The
Well
first
said.
week
Yep.
it was totally reckless in the first half. They got goals out of it, but they were close to conceding a bunch. Second half they came out and cleaned that up, and then um, yesterday I think was the game. They were pretty lackluster in the first half, and then came out in the second half and were much more attack minded and vibrant, I'd say. So yeah, Big Ange is a good coach.
Madison,
I told you, and I'm disappointed that this is happening for those pieces of shit because I don't like them.
you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
Last thing on Premier League is and Tottenham in particular is that Madison looks like a good player. He's a good fit for them.
yeah.
He kind of replicates what Ericsson did for them for a lot of years. So it was a good buy by them. Okay, let's move to Women's World Cup. Spain wins. It was a pretty dominant Spain performance. I thought it easily could have been like 2 or 3-0. Uh, I also thought England was kind of lucky to be there, but
Hmm.
I mean, who can say? Olga Carmona with a goal apparently was hurt. Was something with her dad. If you want to explain it, Steve, what happened with her dad?
Apparently her father tragically passed away a few hours after the final, I believe. So
Was it
just
really? I don't mean to be
I don't
inconsiderate, but
think
was it
it
related? Like, was he got so happy and had a heart attack or
I'm not
something? Or
sure. I don't know that they've released the cause. I don't know if he was already ill or anything, but yeah, pretty
Yeah,
horrible, like
and I think that it was somewhat unexpected because she
yeah.
had given a tribute to somebody else, like another
Yeah.
death. So I don't know if it was something that was, he
She
was ill or something, which is really sad, honestly.
gave a tribute to like a family friend's mother who had passed away recently. So yeah, pretty horrible circumstance. Um but yeah, like I agree with you. I think Spain were the best team throughout the whole tournament outside the one game
Mhm.
against Japan, which I don't that's one of the weirder games because you don't often see like the clear best team in the tournament have one slip up where they lose 4-0. Like it's pretty unheard of. And like you said, England lucked into being there. I kind of agree. I'd say that they got lucky to get past Jamaica because Jamaica were the much better team that match and ended up losing in PKs. Then I'd say England actually cleaned it up to quarterfinal and semifinal and were the stronger team in both of those matches.
It did seem like their side of the bracket was weaker.
Yeah, that's probably true. I think they probably were on the side that had a
They
bunch of like
avoided
surprising
Japan,
eliminations.
Netherlands, and Sweden, and of course the teams that were that went a little bit further but didn't get through to the finals. So, um,
Was Spain the favorite to win at all? I know, like, in the middle of the tournament, it was Spain and Japan were the best teams, or spoken of as the best teams. Is this a pretty expected
I don't
result?
I'm not a huge follower of that, but I don't believe so because I think that Spain right now hold the under 20 World Cup, the under 17, and now the senior team World Cup. So, and it's the first time that's ever
Okay.
happened in women's football. So, like, I think they've been building a
Oh, okay,
pretty
okay.
special, like, women's football
Mhm.
culture. I just wanted to highlight Peruelo, though. She is phenomenal.
That's
Salma
the
Peruelo,
that's
the
the Spain number 9, right?
yeah, the young.
Someone said
She's
she was
like
the breakout star of the
yeah,
tournament. Yeah.
she won it, and she's like 19, I believe, plays for Barca.
Oh
Just
wow.
really, really impressive watching her. She apparently only fully committed to playing soccer in 2019 before she was a two sport like track star and soccer player.
Well,
So just like pretty absurd circumstances surrounding her like ascent to stardom, and you can tell she was like a former track star because she's so fast. Just felt like nobody could keep up with her, and just was a very dynamic and entertaining player to watch throughout the whole tournament, honestly.
that's actually what I was going to ask you, Sebastian. My 2 points were tell me about this breakout star, what you just did, and was she the player of the tourney, or was so do you think there was another player of the tourney?
I didn't see who won the player of the tourney. I'm not sure if she was because I
Oh,
believe
there's
in
an
some.
official award. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think she came off the bench in a few matches, so I'm not totally sure if she would have won that. But whenever she was on the pitch, it just made a huge difference. She was really impressive, especially for like a 19-year-old to stand out like that. It doesn't really happen in the World Cup unless they're truly special.
Yeah. Congratulations, Spain. Anything else on Women's World Cup?
I mean, there was the controversial
Oh, the disaster.
kiss.
Oh yeah. Seems I'll let you
The
talk about this, and then we'll move to Messi afterwards. Go ahead.
um the the Spanish football federation president just he's one of these old dudes, and we're not from that type of culture. Well, I half am. Like I've experienced these unwelcome familial kisses where you're just like getting grabbed in close and kissed
On
on
the
the cheek,
lips,
but
though, dog.
not since I was a child, probably. But like you don't want to get kissed on the cheek by these people, and they force you to come in for a cheek kiss. But I think for him to do it to a bunch of women on like a stage where millions and millions of people were doing is just boneheaded and self-centered,
Yeah,
and just like honestly, just it's very stupid. Like
Creepy. Yeah.
that's
yeah,
just creepy.
don't distract from the moment. It's not your moment. And then apparently he was like in the locker room after the match wilding out, like saying like
Oh my
I saw
god.
that. I saw that.
buying
Like
all
the
of you trips to Ibiza, and like I'm going to marry I can't remember the girl's name, and it's like, dude, no, this is so out of pocket. Like, why are you talking about marrying people? Like it was just very creepy, and I don't think he had any place being that way. And then he's doubled down on it since. Like he went on a radio show and was like, anybody who
Was he
thinks
sauced? Do you think he was sauced?
I don't think when he went on the radio show he was
Probably not
soft.
at that point. I feel like it was so
Yeah,
soon. I feel like it was so soon after the
Yeah.
championship. It was like,
maybe actually I might have it
who
wrong. Yeah, you might
knows?
be right. When he was doing that stuff, he might not have been sauced. When he went on the radio show, he may have been sauced because it was like probably like a few hours after all of that, and he just was like, everybody who thinks that is an idiot. I was like, I don't know, man. A lot of people are thinking it. I don't think everybody can be an idiot. Like,
uh,
I think that's probably on you,
I,
big
I
guy.
I think it's you just have to be aware of your. I think you just have to be aware of your position in the organization, and whether or not I'm not defending it, but I personally don't think it was a place of how do I say, like, malicious, whatever, like, sexual maliciousness, I guess what
Yeah,
I'd say.
it's old
But be
fashioned.
aware of your position in the organization. Yeah, your position in the organization, and you can't just be doing that
He was
on
tone
the
deaf.
biggest on the world's biggest stage. Exactly. So
Tone
it's
deaf, yeah, old
just not
fashioned.
good.
Like, get with the times, man.
Yeah.
People don't want you to
Yeah.
rub your cheek against them, like, forcefully. His hugs were also OD, like, over the top, like, when
OD.
look at his hugs. They were very over Yeah, way over the top.
His hugs were
The
ED.
hugs
Yeah,
were
yeah.
OD, dude.
Did you see them? Like the people, he's the last in the line. Everybody's like giving like pretty standard like chill hugs. He's like grabbing and shaking and then forcefully turning their heads and kissing them on the cheek. And it's like, man, there's a lot of force in like an embrace. Like I'd maybe be like likely to push you off if you were doing something like that to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't shake me, bro. What are you doing? It's also like that
But
curb from the last season. Like your hug, there's genital to genital contact. Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm talking about, Ashwin? Like, yeah.
yeah. I've seen that one actually too. I've seen that one.
Like you gotta stick your butt out when you're hugging. We don't want this genital to genital contact. And I don't think it would have helped him to watch that episode. Maybe that's all I'm gonna
Spanish
say on that
translation,
one.
though.
That's why Larry's there to be the bridge for generations.
Yes, exactly. Well, yeah, Larry's older than this guy, and he even knows.
He stays winning. Larry
Yeah.
stays winning.
Pretty much, yeah.
I always, I mean, just a really quick aside about Larry David. I just think it's funny about when the FTX thing went down. Like his FTX commercial was like, I'm not investing in FTX. Like it's just stupid crypto, right? And like the point of the commercial is like, oh, don't be like Larry because he doesn't get what's going on. FTX is the best, is the next big thing. And then obviously the big scandal happened. It's like, no, like Larry stays winning. He said in the
That's
commercial.
really funny. I never even thought of that. That's true.
Yeah. So just a quick aside on Larry David. It's just super hilarious. So you can't lose, dude. You can't lose.
Yeah. Anything else on World Cup? I was going to move to Messi and his MLS League Cup.
No, I think we can move to that. Yeah.
Okay. So Messi somehow wins the MLS League Cup, right? He scores
the
first goal. They go to penalties. They end up winning. All I can say is wow. Steve, you told me yourself that Inter Miami was a shit team last year, and to get the trophy within like 3 months of him being there, it's crazy.
They're apparently the worst team in MLS currently, standings wise, and he actually has a chance to get them a second trophy pretty soon because the U.S. Open Cup semifinal, which Inter Miami is in, because that's like a tournament with every club in the country, like lower Division 2, and I believe Inter Miami's draw was fairly beneficial, so they were able to play lower ranked clubs and get to the semifinal. So on Tuesday, I believe they play that, and if they win that, they'll play in the final, which is like sometime within the month, I believe. So he actually has a chance to get them their first 2 trophies in pretty short order. And I'd say the US Open Cup is like it's the oldest soccer competition in the country. It's a pretty prestigious title. So
our FA Cup, you could say.
It's essentially our FA Cup. It's really fun. I've always been a big fan of the US Open Cup. But yeah,
Good. I look forward to watching that.
Yeah, back to the Leagues Cup final.
But,
just pretty absurd because they were definitely the worst. They were not the best team in that match. Nashville dominated it.
I was going to speak more broadly about like how he's managed to bring Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets.
Yeah.
And Suarez is supposed to be coming. Iniesta's on his way already. Like it's just going to be like.
Iniesta just debuted for his side in Qatar over the weekend.
I heard that Iniesta is coming, and that the one that was not coming was Suarez, and he's going to finish out the end of the season with his team, and then they're going to revisit it later. Gremio, something like that. But I was pretty sure that Iniesta's coming, and they're going to basically reprise Barca 2013 or 2010. Yeah.
Actually, sorry, I think Iniesta's playing in the UAE, and he just debuted over the weekend. So I actually don't know if that's happening anytime soon, because I would imagine his contract had to have been for like multiple years, because I believe his contract in Japan ended, and he was a free agent, and then he went over.
What teams would these players be joining?
All Inter Miami.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're all coming to meet their boys. It's like bring out the boys, bring the boys. Let's get.
It's just broken. It's just broken. He's already taken the team to a championship.
It could be a little bit right, but I do think that you will see a lot of those players from the ex-Barca. Like I think there's another one that wasn't that good who's already there on the team, but people want to play with them, and now that they're all in that phase of their career where they are in retirement phase and just looking to like play further the game of soccer and like get
Just
paid
ride
a
it
little
out.
bit. Yeah, ride it out into sunset. I think I could see more Barca players going there.
Yeah, and especially they see what Messi's doing. They're like, I could ride it out with a little hype,
I
Yeah,
with a
think
little
for sure.
excitement in my career.
Exactly right.
I think that the
Sebastian,
MLS is going to have a hard time poaching a lot of talent away though, because Saudi Arabia is just taking everybody right now.
it's a new
And I
variable. It's a
have
new
to,
variable, correct?
yeah, I have to give props to that league because it's actually very entertaining, and I'm glad Fox Sports has picked up like broadcasting rights for it. Because the same day, I think it was the same day that, or maybe it was the day before that, Messi won the League's Cup. Your boy, his team went
Hmm.
0-2 on the league season and lost to a team that they were like huge favorites over, Al Tawoun, who are not that great in the Saudi
Okay.
league. And yeah, CR7, Pinaldo, 0-2, bottom of the table. I don't know what's happening,
Yeah.
Ashwin.
I mean, he's gonna be paid. I don't like. Yeah, maybe I should take a look at it more
He
closely
seems
if
to
you
want
think
to
it's
win, though.
competitive. But it's more of an yeah. Okay.
He gets really,
I thought
really
it was more
pissy.
like oh, he's always been like that. You can't say
No,
it's
but
any different. He's like
it's pretty bad. Like, and his I don't because
he's
Al he
chronically pissy.
yeah, I mean that's his personality, but I don't know. Like that league is starting to take off. Like Neymar's going there. Um, there was
Yeah,
somebody else who just signed
he got the royal
randomly
treatment. You
today.
saw that. You saw the picture of him in front of the 747.
They did a huge presentation. I was watching the game actually. It was pretty absurd. Um, then I think Mitrovic went there to the same club.
Oh, he finally got his Fulham exit.
I believe so, yeah. So like, yeah, it's not looking good for your boy. His team's not. I don't know if they're gonna qualify for a Asian Champions League. You know.
We'll see. Well, it's something to watch for in the soccer segment coming forward. Let's take a break and we'll
Yeah, big
talk about
Saudi
USA
people,
basketball.
big Saudi soccer people going forward.
Okay, yeah. Well, let's take a break.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, welcome back. Pool Boys podcast. We talked about soccer in segment one. Now we're going to talk about a little bit of USA basketball. They had a couple tune-up games versus Greece and Germany this week, and I believe the tournament starts fairly soon, not in a couple days.
Friday.
Friday. Thank you, Sebastian. So let's talk about the Germany game first. They won 99-91 and Ted 34 and 36. Reeves and Halliburton both chipped in 16 off the bench. What I saw from the highlights is Germany cannot buy a three. If you guys saw the game, what was that? Is that an appropriate assessment of the game? What happened? It's supposed to be a great game, right?
It was a very good game. USA was down 16 in the first half, I believe. And then their defensive intensity really ratcheted up in the second half, and they came back and were pretty dominant, I'd say, in the second half.
Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say when watching the game, it was a little bit concerning when we went down by quite a bit. I mean, we did close the game on an 18-0 run.
Oh,
So it was like a dominant, really nasty 18-0 run. But having been down, and we were down by 5-7 or something like that for a pretty good period of time. And so I expect us to really ramp it up when the tourney starts and these games start getting more serious. But for us to have to get this serious for Germany is a little concerning early. Germany pretty good though. They got the Wagner brothers. They got Schroeder. They got
Schrodman.
Tice. So
I'm
they're a good team. So similar to what I was saying earlier, like a lot of these teams have a lot more talent, while they might not be like top talent, but contributing players in the league. Um, when you're looking up and down the roster, so we'll see. I saw Steves, you kind of disagreed. Where
I would say
you feeling
Germany.
good? You feeling good?
Germany is
They're
like
a
a
good team,
threat
right?
to medal, I'd say this time. The rest of the field's kind of weak, and I mean, Franz, Schroeder, Tice, like you said, Mo off the bench, and the commentary today was really hyping up this Andreas Obst guy, saying he comes off
Yeah,
screens like
yeah, yeah,
JJ Redick. So,
yeah. It's like, I
but yeah, I
guess.
mean, Germany. I kind of laughed at that too. Germany. This is I don't know if it's their golden generation, but they are entering into a very strong generation of basketball. So it wouldn't shock me to see Germany in the quarters or even the semis. when we actually get to the tournament. So, I mean, it was a good performance. I'd say the first half was, lackadaisical, pretty substandard. But when it's always good, like, you're a very good team when you can turn on a switch and just flip a game very quickly. And that's kind of what I
True,
saw today,
true,
yeah.
true. And just to speak a little bit, yeah, Ant is pretty awesome. I mean, this season, Sebastian obviously is a massive fan. I've always been a
It's
fan
good.
of Ant as well. This season, of course, he was a lot of talk of him slated to be that next superstar. And while there were a lot of flashes of it, he was pretty inconsistent. But this might be the push that he's getting to be the star because he's looking dominant. He's out physicaling people. He's like dunking on people pretty easy. And he's really crafty downhill. Like his footwork downhill is pretty nasty. He always gets like a nice layup. And he's really
Yeah.
athletic that even if somebody bumps him, people are just kind of flying off him. So I'm pretty excited to see where he goes from here.
It'll be good for him. He's the best player on the team, or he's the face of the team, and everything will kind of go through him. So like he'll have the clutch gene, and he'll be with really good players. Something like, I mean, yeah, Minnesota has some decent players, but it won't all be on him. He can rely on them, and he'll have the ability to
I
really take
Minnesota
his game to the next level. What? Go ahead, Sibby,
Minnesota
what you're
has
saying.
more than a couple fine players. They have the Cat, man,
Cat.
who led
Okay.
his national
Who's
team
balling
to
out? He's balling out.
yeah,
Yeah.
he led his national team to a victory over the much ballyhooed Canadian basketball team.
Yeah.
So I
He
mean,
was launching 3-pointers as the best shooting big man as per
I kind
titled
of feel
himself. He was
I don't know. I'm kind of buying into like a Cat revenge narrative heading into the season. I feel like he's
I
gonna take
don't.
everything personally that people have been saying and come out with a
I like.
strong first half of the season before it inevitably goes really badly when
I
we
mean,
get to playoff times.
he has all the tools. It's just like none of the moxie, or like none of
Think
the like
might be a little
mental
too much
game.
moxie.
Okay,
That might be
maybe.
the problem also. Might have a little bit too much moxie.
Too much moxie and a lack of self-awareness. Not a
Yes.
good
Yeah, that's
combo.
very bad combo, yeah.
Yeah, not a good combo. I mean, I feel like he's had this opportunity to show many times in the past, oh, like this is the year that will come in and Cat will really explode. And he does show it, like you mentioned, maybe for the first half of the season
Offensively only.
or in the first part of the
Well,
season, he'll be really balling out. And then, like you said, it kind of inevitably just falls off and it kind of returns to that narrative like, oh, he might just be what he is, which is like a good offensive player, but kind of dumb in the late game. And yeah,
it's
bad defensively.
really impossible for him to guard fours, I'd say. Like that's gonna always be a problem with Cat, and that's what they're asking him to do in Minnesota. So I don't know how that's gonna work out, but I don't know. I feel like we've maybe gone a little too far in like bashing Cat, and I'm definitely probably a person who can be blamed for this because I used to be a big fan of this, and now I'm reversing course and I'm having like rose tinted glasses, looking back at like, oh, I remember when the first college game he had, I was super in on this guy, and I think he can still do it. And I don't know, I'm starting to get soft.
I mean, he's getting pretty far into his career. 8
Yeah, he's like,
years.
26, right?
yeah,
Oh, only 26?
yeah, he's
Okay.
not that
Okay.
old yet.
Maybe
Doesn't
just
look
because
like
he
that.
came out as a freshman, just because he came out as a freshman.
Yeah,
It feels like he's been around for a while, which he has.
he has, yeah, but also
27.
just
Yeah.
isn't
Okay,
old
he's
yet.
time,
Okay.
man.
Yeah.
He's
So
time for a
this would
different
be
arc,
the time.
Brian.
This would be the
Yeah.
time, though. You like
Yes,
the
exactly
arc needs
right.
to start right now, basically.
Yes,
It's all going
exactly.
into
So
place. He's gonna have a dominant stretch with the Dominican Republic team at the World Cup, and it'll booing him to like an impressive season as Ant's second fiddle.
does actually though that would have to
Yeah,
be the role that he does
he
extremely well
knows.
for it to be.
I think he knows.
He knows.
I hope he knows.
You
Ant had
just
a
said he's
really
not self-aware.
I pray that he knows.
Yeah, you pray that he knows. Yeah, you hope. You hope he knows.
Ant
Yes.
had a really nice like turnaround mid-range fader that in the game that a lot of the superstar guards have. Obviously, like Kobe, Jordan, but like even like Kawhi, PG, they always have these like really nice controlled mid-range faders, and he had one today in the game. I was like, oh, that's
He
a
has
star move right there, man. Like that looked really
really
good
is a really underrated jump shot, I'd say. Like people always just
for
assume,
sure.
oh, he's super athletic, and that's like his main gift. But like his jumper is pretty like wet, honestly. He
Yeah,
made
it's
a
good.
few
It's
he
good.
made a few clutch jumpers today too, late in the game. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
happy to see that he's like the go-to guy with this team, because a lot of people were saying like, oh, it's gonna be Ingram. And like I like Brandon Ingram a lot. But I think that there's a big talent gap between the two. And I think very highly of Ingram. I think he's a phenomenal player. But
Sure.
I think
Sure.
Ant
He's an
is
Sure.
like,
Sure.
all-star. He's an all-star.
yeah,
Yeah, and even then, you're
tremendous
saying
player.
Ant is a bigger talent. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ant
Yeah.
is like has a chance to actually be like the face of a league. That's how like talented I think he is. So it's good to see him show this on the stage. Although I don't know how many people are going to be watching when these games start tipping off at like 2 and 5 in the morning. Unfortunately,
That is true. That
we'll
is
see the
true.
highlights, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, got to give a shout out to Reeves. He looks awesome. Also,
He does.
he's
I was just gonna
hustling.
say.
He's
Yeah.
he gets into the paint. He gets fouled, and it's looking great. He's looking
I'm liking the
strong.
camaraderie between Ant and Reeves too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seem to have good.
A
Austin seems to
superstar
have
to
Yeah,
superstar, dude.
yeah,
superstar.
exactly
Mano a mano.
the two future faces of the league. I said
Real
that back.
recognize real.
I said that back in like March or April of this year. I was like, these are the two future faces of the league, kind of tongue in cheek, but I think there's like a realistic chance, and I think if for
Well, I don't know about
quite
face of
like,
the league for Reeves, but
well, I
definitely,
think
I
there's a
think he has
reason
a
that
chance to
Reeves
be a
could
really
be a
good
face of the
player.
league, but we don't need to get into
Pretty
that.
soon. Yeah. We don't need to go into that on this pod, Ryan.
Sure,
But yeah.
fair enough, fair enough, fair enough, fair
Magic
enough.
and Magic and Bird vibes, maybe.
The modern Magic and Bird, dude.
Yeah.
Modern Magic and Bird.
I
That'd
have
be
some pretty
crazy.
spicy opinions on Bird, so maybe for a different pod though.
What? Oh, what? Come on.
I don't think I
Fair
kind of
enough.
can. It depends. Yeah, we don't have to do it now, but I can kind of see where you're going with it. But I don't know. You got to watch
Give,
one at a
give
time.
maybe like a 1 or 2 cent. Give like a maybe 1 or 2 sentence part of
Okay,
the spicy
I'll
take.
do like one of those like
Introduce it. Introduce it. Give a little teaser.
greeny teases, right?
Yeah, give a little teaser.
Did the color of Bird's skin have anything to do with his national ranking? More at 5. Okay.
I feel
That's
like
like a
this is
lazy
like
take.
a
It's a
yeah.
very
I
not
think
spicy and quite
he's
unoriginal.
6. I think 6 is a bit high for Bird. That's all I'll say.
Who has
And
him like?
I think a big part.
Who has him 6 though?
Go ahead.
Who has him 6?
I think
A lot of people have him pretty
a lot of
high. A lot of
6
people
or
pretty
7.
pretty high.
Like
The
borderline
Boston
top
Media
10 to
Mafia
me.
has a big role to play in that as well. Um,
I feel like the take has always been that, and then there's a lot of firsthand accounts of people, in the league of him just bullying people, and it's like, oh, okay, he's actually fucking awesome. So again, I've only been able to see him through the highlights, but my imagining of it is that he basically, only because I only have this modern context, is he basically was like Luca in the 80s, like that,
Yeah, I
that
think
similar type
cool.
of
sort of.
comparison, like not super athletic, but super crafty, really skilled, that kind of strong, that kind of thing.
I think 6 or 7 would probably be a bit high. Ashwin's probably right there, but I do think he's like a fringe top 10 guy.
If you think about it, who else in the top 20 is like him?
Well, who else in the top 20 has 3 titles and is having people dispute that he's not top 20?
Yeah.
No, you misunderstood me, Sebastian. Like who?
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Anything else on anything else on USA Basketball? They did Greece. They played well against Greece, and again led. Reeves, Portis, and Cam Johnson played well off the bench, and the starters played a little better. The starters did not play well versus Germany. I think Ant was the only one who played well. It goes into my next question. Unless you guys anything meaningful to draw from the Greece game, otherwise I'll go into my next kind of segment.
Not super meaningful. Just a quick shout out to Bobby Portis. He does seem a little bit out of place.
Yeah, I'm
but
not a
he's
fan.
he's always getting the random tip-ins and random rebounds, and I'm like, hey, good for you, Bobby.
Got some fight.
Yeah, good for you,
today.
man. He was bad today. He was really bad today.
He was
But
awful, and Kerr was like forcing him to play in crunch time, and it was like, bro, like this is gonna cost us the game. And finally, he subbed him out, and things picked up after that.
I'm more happy for Bobby himself. I do agree that he hasn't been great, but it's like hey, you found your way somehow onto the national team.
That's
Good for you,
mean.
Bobby. Good for you.
Somehow you found your way here. I feel like
He's not a good player.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
not a
I
good
get
player.
it. I
He's
get
not a
what
good
Brian's saying.
player. He's not a
feel like
good player.
it's
He's
Just
nicer
not.
of
being
me to
real.
just say he shouldn't be on the team than to say, "Ah, somehow you found your way here."
He's there to play a specific role, and he's
I
not
mean,
there
he's a
because he's
champion,
like a
right? He's
top
an
10
NBA
or 20 or 30 player in the United States.
I get why he's there.
champion. He's
Yeah,
a champion player.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the culture, I get it as well. So yeah.
So, one thing you brought up, Kerr, and I had one question. What you guys thought about his starting lineup was. So I think he's playing Brunson and then basically three forwards, right? He's playing Bi, he's playing Bridges, and then he's playing JJJ, Triple J,
yeah, I like it.
and basically Halliburton and Reeves are basically the first two off the bench, maybe with a big, depending on what the game is. So, you think that's good? I thought he would play a two forward lineup with three guards, but he's elected for a bigger lineup. How's it playing? And do you think it's what we need going forward?
I think it's the correct lineup based on what we
It's
have.
yeah. Go ahead, Sebastian.
Well, I mean,
Go ahead, Seeps. Why?
Edwards, Ingram, and Bridges are pretty versatile wings, and he's asking Ingram to play more of like a four role, but Ingram still can initiate and create. So I feel like it gives you good versatility, and it's like pretty long. They can switch. For the most part, I think it's a pretty good lineup. Brunson is like the leader of the team, so I get why he's starting over Tyrese, even though I think Halliburton's probably like a slightly more talented or
Better
has
player.
more potential as a player than
Sure.
Brunson does. Plus, Brunson is like pretty good at making bailout baskets, although he didn't have a great game today. But as a whole, it's better than I thought it would be because I thought he was going to do something like that you were suggesting, and I didn't think that was going to be a great idea. And I do like Paolo as like the backup five. I think that's a really interesting wrinkle that he's thrown in.
Brian?
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar. It's that even though that lineup is bigger, it is a pretty versatile lineup. Triple J is, he's a center, but he's pretty mobile. You could shoot threes. Bi obviously is lengthy, but he definitely has more of those wing and guard skills. And so I think leaning into, and it seems like the international game is more like that sometimes. It's just having more of that versatility allows more flexibility in the lineups. And so when we need more ball distribution, bringing in Halliburton, and he just to note, Halliburton's been bringing great energy. It does feel like the kind of the tides do change every time he comes in. People start running a little bit more, and Jalen is a good player, but yeah, he's more of like that scoring guard, and Halliburton's more of like that pure PG. So having that in the wings is always great. And then, uh, yeah, just echoing what Sebastian said, Paolo is. I think he's gonna take a big leap next year. I mean, he was already quite good for a rookie this year, and so having him just be off the bench, I think, is a boon for USA. And he's kind of like the X factor because he can just go off honestly at any point, really. And so I think he still has to kind of earn his stripes. As good as he is, I think he has more talent than some of the people in the starting lineup, to be completely honest. But he's still that young guy in the wings, so to speak. So I think we're pretty solid, but again, I'm a little concerned of when we face some of these more talented teams. I think we'll definitely come out on top, but I think it won't be so easy.
So
Our
no sophomore slump for Paolo.
I
I
don't think
don't
so.
see it.
He's a pretty good player.
Our
Okay,
group
go ahead,
in
Seeps.
the World Cup is pretty easy. It's like New Zealand, Greece, and Jordan, and I
Sure.
don't think any three of those will present much of a challenge. I mean,
Fair enough.
Jordan's best player is Rondé Hollis Jefferson, so love my guy, but actually I don't really love him. He's
I
Yeah,
haven't heard
a
that name in a
wildcat.
while. Yeah.
I've been seeing him all
fair
over the
enough.
world in world basketball, and it just shocked me when I was like, "Oh, now you're here. You're playing for Jordan. Wow."
Yeah.
So, yes, good for him. The dream never dies. But yeah, so
I'm
I
a big
think like
sucker for summer workouts. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say really quickly. I'm a big sucker for summer workouts, and I saw some Paolo Katie workouts also. So,
Oh
from
no,
you
when
know how
though,
those are gonna go,
getting in
dude.
the lab. Yeah.
I was like a little earlier in the summer.
for
It was
sure.
probably like a month ago. It was like before FIBA started. Yeah.
I like Paolo a
But yeah, go
lot.
ahead.
I think
Sorry.
very interesting to play him at the 5 because I don't think he played much 5 for the Magic last year. So I'd
Mhm.
like seeing that, and I think it works pretty well in the FIBA style of basketball. But Ashwin,
Do you see?
you were saying you wanted to line up with
I didn't say I wanted
or what did
three
you think it
guards.
was
It's
going
just
to
that
be?
I thought maybe Reeves would be in there. You play Halliburton and Brunson, but I didn't know how rebounding like would affect us. Like it seems like a lot of the supreme bigs. Like I mean, the one that I thought it was Jokic. Jokic isn't playing. Like how are bigs going to affect us at this tournament? Do you foresee us getting out rebounded heavily if we play that 3-4 lineup? Do we need to play Kessler just token minutes? What's the deal?
I don't know that we do, even though we've been getting out rebounded a lot. It seems like, but I don't really like the smaller lineup because in the international game that tends to work against you because a lot of countries have bigger guards that can score over the top of the smaller guards. So that would be
Interesting.
the one concern with that. But the rebounding point isn't bad. It doesn't seem like Kerr really wants to play Kessler, unfortunately for him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're gonna have to overcome the rebounding disparity some other way, which I think they're trying to
I
do
can
with like
see
defensive intensity and forcing
I
turnovers.
can see running Kessler for like 5 minute spurts. Maybe it's matchup dependent. You just need to kind of bully the paint a little bit. But yeah, the international game doesn't seem too paint heavy, at least from what I've seen so far. But I could see a matchup happening or a small stretch where we're getting out rebounded where he would be good. But until then, I don't think he will necessarily serve a large role for this team quite yet.
Yeah, like if they end up having to play France in the tournament, who I think is like probably the second favorite after the US, um, that could be a concern because they're pretty big with Gobert and my guy
Mhm.
Gershon Yabusele. Had to give
Yeah,
him a shout out. I love that
that
guy.
goes on to my.
But yeah, could be a problem
That
like if
really
they're
was my
playing
next
France.
question. Is out of out of Canada, France, Spain, and Germany. Those are the four I kind of marked. Who do you think presents the biggest problem for us?
I
Oh,
honestly think Canada,
I,
personally. I think
Jamal
they're
and
just
friends
no,
I
Jamal's
just
not
think they
playing.
just
play-ins.
have the most talent.
Jamal's not playing.
Mm-mm.
Who's the main
SGA.
players? SGA.
SGA.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one.
I think I'm just zeroing in on SGA as the talent. Let me look at their roster real quick. They do have a pretty good team.
it's SGA, Nikhil Alexander Walker, Lugwens Dort. Who's their big? They have
That's
RJ
right. That's
Barrett, I
right.
believe.
Yeah,
But I
Yeah,
can't remember.
that's quite a good team.
The
Dylan
problem
They
is,
Brooks,
have Dylan Brooks.
oh, for sure, Dylan's been playing pretty
Uh,
well in these warm up games.
Kelly
yeah,
Olynyk.
Dylan Brooks.
Olenek, yeah. I
That's like
just,
an NBA team, you know.
I think
Yeah,
that
I
my
see it.
problem with Canada is their depth, like their depth beyond that is pretty shaky. I don't really feel that strongly about anybody besides like the 6 you've named. There might be one more that I'm forgetting who's decent as well. But I don't
Uh,
know.
Dwight
They
Powell.
lost.
Dwight
Is he playing?
Powell.
Dwight Powell is the
Yeah,
seventh. I might be thinking of.
He is playing.
it's not a
Yeah,
bad
they
roster at
lost.
all, Brian. I kind of
It's
see
not.
it.
It's not as good as the U.S. roster.
No,
No,
definitely not.
no.
I think just biggest challenge. I think Canada presents the biggest challenge, but I still do think we would be quite the favorites. 100%.
So
I
gold or
just
bust, right?
Canada lost to the Dominican Republic. Like I just to me that was a pretty eye-opening loss. I watched that game because I was interested. I was like, oh, like it's because I saw the score and it was like Canada was losing. I was like, what? They're gonna lose to the Dominican Republic? Who's on this team? And it was just Cat basically.
Sure.
Like Angel Delgado played, I believe, who's like a solid player. I think he plays overseas now. He went to Seton Hall, but I just don't really see it with Canada. Also, like they've never been on the stage before, so like they don't have the veteran know-how of international ball. This group, at least. So I would say
Which is
France.
fair. Which is
Yeah,
fair.
I'd say France is like the biggest threat, and then Spain
Okay.
maybe after them because Spain just always seems to somehow find a way to
Yeah,
like
they
put
just have a great
Kobe.
org.
Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
basically they just have a great org.
I don't
That's
even
honestly
think this
it.
team is super strong. It's like the Hernan Gomez brothers, Santi Aldama. I think Rudy might be giving it one more go. Rudy Fernandez.
I think so. Rudy Fernandez. Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe so.
I think he's like giving it one more go. And there's like somebody
About,
else who's like
40.
Sergio Yul, I think, is playing like one last time. But to me,
Yeah,
France
how
is
old
like
is Rudy Fernandez?
38 or 39, I believe. I think I looked this up not that
Yeah,
long
he's
ago.
38.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's 38. He's 38. Which
Good for
because he
him.
still
Get out there and
plays
like,
for.
let's go.
He's like he plays for Real Madrid still, and he's like
and
an
honestly,
absolute
it
legend.
feels older. It definitely feels older just because, he had like whatever 4 to 5 year stretch, but that was a while ago. But that was when he was also very young. And then he went out of the league, and then he's kind of
With
just been
Portland,
playing
right?
overseas with
Yeah, with
Portland. He was in
Portland.
the dunk contest. If I
He's
recall, he was in the
very,
dunk contest.
very savvy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so it's interesting to see. It just feels that he's just been out for so long. But even though 38 is obviously late in your career, it's almost doesn't feel old enough still because it was a while ago when he was in the league.
It's probably been over a
Quite a long
decade
time
now.
ago. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Time flies, honestly.
Yeah.
Anything else on USA basketball? That's all I had, guys. For that, excited for Friday. Do you know who we play first, Sebastian?
We play New Zealand first at 5:40 a.m.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Is
Okay.
Mr. Adams playing?
No,
Oh,
Still
okay.
hurt or recovering?
yeah, probably still recovering. This New Zealand team is not super strong. Like I have to say, I've heard of like one player on their team. I think I'm not even sure I've heard of him. His name just looks familiar. But I was like watching one of their games. I think it was a warm-up game against China, and they lost by 1 point, and they just was like, "Oh, who are these people?" Whereas I knew a few of China's people, like our boy Lee Kayar, aka Kyle Anderson, and Jochi.
We have the Haka to look forward to though. That's
I
the
hate
always
that
No,
that's always
shit
the
so much.
I don't like that. I was actually considering like talking about that for a buy or sell segment, but I didn't know if it was like spicy or like or
Wait,
not.
save it for
Like,
next week
dude,
after we have to endure it at 5:40 in the morning.
yeah,
yeah.
that'd be cool.
Don't
Okay.
pre-choreograph your reaction to it. You never know. Maybe you'll like it this year. You
For the,
never know.
No,
I
that's for
thought it
sure.
was cool the first time I saw it, and then, or maybe like the first like few times I saw it, and now I'm just like, if I was on the other team, I would have a very hard time not laughing. I feel like,
Yeah, I mean, I
oh no,
respect it for its cultural thing, but it's funny to
that was the take.
me. Wait,
Yeah, of
wait. Let me
course.
finish. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Having
But
said this, I mean that, right?
but no,
Like,
I think it is funny when they're doing it to a team that is much better than them because it's kind of like, okay, like this is a big showing and it's not really going to be going anywhere. No, I think it's cool for the cultural thing. I don't have a problem with
Oh,
it.
you
okay, Brian, whatever you say, man.
fuck you, dude.
Hey
No,
man,
Yeah, leave us out
hey
on the
to
dude.
island,
all our
and yeah,
New Zealand listeners, I love you. You have a great country. A big fan of Israel Adesanya. I have no beef with your country. Just say like, let's not do this before every match.
I like the Lord of the Rings movies. They were great.
Uh,
Okay.
Well, I
yeah,
won't puke. I'll have to make a judgment once it happens next week.
yeah,
So
maybe it'll
Yes,
be
yes,
I
awesome,
won't
and I'll have to come back.
pre-choreograph my answer either.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
come back
yeah.
and
Let's not count our chickens
apologize.
before they've hatched.
Apologize to all our Kiwi listeners next week when it's awesome.
yeah,
When it's
I'll
the
have
best
to
haka I've
probably.
ever seen.
And we lose by 40 because
Yeah,
we're so good,
we're
dude.
so scared.
Should we take a break and then we can come back for segment 3?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. A big fight happened this weekend in UFC. Sean O'Malley fought Aljamain Sterling. He defeated him in the second round. It was a TKO, just destroyed him on a counter. So I thought Siebes would kind of give us. He watched the fight from start to finish, and also a lot of the card. So I thought he'd kind of give us the foundation for it. Siebes would happen.
So you pretty much nailed it. Sean was keeping his distance pretty well. Aljamain, who's a tremendous grappler, wasn't able to really close the gap and get a takedown. And Sean just is a better striker. Aljamain got reckless, left his chin up when he swung recklessly to try to get inside and got countered and clipped. And then Sean O'Malley finished the show. I mean, the commentator, like Rogan, was kind of complaining that it was an early stoppage, but he seems to be like the only person who feels that way outside of Aljo
Turned his
himself.
back. I feel like he was done.
He was getting pretty
Yeah,
mauled. I
he
think it could have gone on longer, but it was not a bad
I
stoppage. It was
feel
not a
that
bad stoppage.
I feel that if it had gone longer, he was going to eat a really bad shot in the next couple
Sure,
seconds, basically, and actually been
Yeah.
out cold. But
Yeah.
it's just a huge boon for Dana White that Sean was able to win, because Sean is a 100% homegrown talent. He gained his contract through the first season, or maybe it was the second season, of Dana White's Contender Series, which is like Dana's like Tuesday night show that they have like 5 fights on. It's with prospects from all around the world, and if you have like an impressive performance, Dana will hand you a contract. That was back in 2017, and
Wow.
Sean was like probably the biggest star of that entire. Might be the biggest star that's ever. He is the biggest star now that's ever come out of that program. But even at the time, he was huge because it went pretty viral. Because at that time, Snoop Dogg was doing like a special alternate broadcast, and Snoop Dogg loved him. He was like freaking out when Sean O'Malley was fighting, and there's like a lot of very funny clips from that time where Snoop's just like singing "O'Malley, O'Malley" and all this like pretty hilarious stuff, and it's just like you could tell Dana was pretty ecstatic that Sean won because he's super marketable. He has 3 million followers on Instagram right now. He's a big deal in terms of like MMA fighters.
Do you buy the comparison to Connor?
I get it. I don't know if there'll ever be another Conor McGregor, because
Right.
Connor
Does he
had an
sell the fights
accent.
as good?
Connor had
as
an accent, which helps, I think,
Yeah.
with Americans, because like it's like, oh, the funny Irish guy said something, whereas like O'Malley's more laid
Yeah.
back and doesn't really have like the one-liners, but his fight
He can
style
be
is
pretty
super.
brash though, man.
Yeah, he can.
He can be pretty brash. Like,
He's more flat though, I'd say, in his delivery,
yeah,
but
sure.
I don't
It's
think
less
like
It's less showman like Connor for
yeah.
sure.
I
Hmm.
think
100%.
Sean's fight style is super fan friendly though, because at least like from the casual fan friendly perspective, because he's not a grappler. Like he was even saying yesterday after the fight, like I actually like hurt my rib like 6 weeks out and couldn't do any grappling for like the last 5 weeks. So if Aljamain actually was able to take me down, I would have been fucked. Like it was gonna be life or death pretty much. And it was like pretty shocking to hear. But I'm happy for him. Like I wasn't always the biggest fan, but I was one of the few people who actually picked him to win yesterday. So good for me. I'll have to give myself a pat on the back. But I just thought that he presented problems for Aljamain because of his length and the style. Um, but yeah, I think it's just a good thing for the UFC as a business. Like they're gonna make a lot of money off of him, and he's probably gonna have like a decent title run. I don't think he'll lose, or at least yeah, I don't see him losing to at least the next fight, and that's a super marketable fight too, with against Chito Vera. It's gonna be like a rematch because in their first
Oh, wow.
fight, Sean shattered his leg and was unable to continue, and Cheeto built like a pretty nice little run off of that one win because Sean was super hyped up at the time, and it was like, oh, I'm the guy who beat Sean O'Malley, and now Cheeto's kind of like middling contender. Like he's solid, but I think Sean has grown, and yeah, we'll see.
Don't you feel like UFC's kind of had a vacuum for this type of like uh, talent with the gravitas to like sell these pay-per-views since Connor's left? Khabib was really, really fundamentally like a good fighter, but he didn't have the same draw as a Connor type.
Habib
So they're kind of
sold
looking for this next generation. Yeah, go ahead.
Habib sold a lot though internationally. Like he was huge in the Middle East and in the Muslim world.
I see.
Like those pay-per-view numbers always did. They were really really high, But outside of him, yeah, it was difficult. I mean, they always sell out arenas, and their pay-per-view numbers are still pretty solid because they managed to create this product where the brand UFC is bigger than almost any individual fighter. And it's like, oh, I'm just going to tune into the UFC because I know it's a quality product. Um, John
I see.
Jones
Yeah.
was probably the guy
Yeah.
who, when he returned, was a really big deal in the same realm as Connor. But yeah, you're right. Like, they've been searching for that next megastar, and I think they're hoping that it's O'Malley. And I mean, based on like the social media numbers and the numbers that
Yeah.
his pay-per-view fights do, it's kind
Yeah,
of
I
the
wasn't
proof is there.
too. Yeah, I wasn't too invested in who won. I like O'Malley, but I wouldn't say I'm like a big fan or anything like that. I actually thought Aljamain was going to win for the reasons that he's a better grappler. But that shot that took him down was a beautiful shot. Honestly, it was just a
Clean.
super clean counter punch, and it was just perfectly telegraphed, almost like you know O'Malley gets barely out of this his striking range and just barrels in for the counter. So I'm also happy for him. We'll see where his stardom goes from here. I have been following him for a while, and like yeah, he's always been pretty popular. But this seems like this might be kind of the curve of where it'll be that huge growth into that big star. But we'll see. You never know if he'll even win his next fight. I think he's a good matchup. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about that.
Just to add on the
Just
Aljamain point, that
go ahead,
him
Steve.
losing solved the big problem for the UFC, unfortunately, because from the moment he won his title, he was absolutely hated because he won it via disqualification. So it was always seen as like
Yeah,
lesser, and like it started
yeah,
off with him like being like, I don't even want to accept this, and then like that night, somebody like one of his friends was on like Instagram Live, and they were like, "You should celebrate with your title." So he like picked up his title and like started celebrating with it, and pretty much everybody turned on him after that, and he couldn't really ever figure out how to be the heel because I even bought into it because I really liked Piotr Jan, who was the guy he beat by disqualification to win the title, and I was pretty pissed off for a while. And he always just came off as very insincere. And I think it was just because he didn't want to be hated, which is very fair. But like, you are hated, you have to deal with it. And I thought after the fight last night was like, he came off as like very genuine and a pretty good guy. And I felt pretty bad for disliking him as much as I did. And it kind of just sucks that it takes you like having this horrific loss on like the grandest stage for like
for
your true
sure.
colors to come out and for
It's
everybody to
true.
see like, yeah, you're just a
Yeah, I
solid
saw
guy.
that IG
Yeah.
live clip. People got to get off IG lives, man. It never ends well for
Yeah,
anybody,
that's
dude.
very true as
Seriously,
well. Yes.
Pretty much,
honestly,
yeah.
honestly, yeah, people got to get off IG
We could
live.
circle
Always the
back to
worst.
our Spain president conversation. That IG live didn't end
Yeah,
for
yeah,
him
yeah,
either.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That is so ridiculous because it looks so candid, right? Like it's just in the locker room, and it's like, oh my god, dude.
Yeah, it was really
So,
uncomfortable, but yeah.
Let's move on to Barsal, guys. A- anything else before we move on to Barsal, though? I know, Steve, you want to talk about Sean O'Malley. So, anything else? Do we kind of hit everything?
No, I think we hit everything. Yeah, just
Oh,
yeah,
great for the
I'll just
UFC.
say this: when I noticed about Sugar Sean, and I watched a little bit of his clips from other fights too, is he's a very clean striker. Something I
Hmm.
noticed, like when other people go into these flurries, it doesn't seem like they're making contact with as well. Even in the knockout from yesterday, you saw like when he got his
yeah.
chance, he was hitting it, making contact with Aljamain. So that's
He has
one thing
great length too. He has
as an
great
He's
outsider
length.
I
he's
saw.
one of the
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's another difference
legitimately
too. Yes,
very talented strikers in the UFC. Like one of the very legitimately very talented strikers.
yeah. You could see it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Is you can see it very easily. So for buy or sell, I was gonna do. I'll start because I have a pretty strong sell. Um, I'm gonna sell Linus Tech Tips. If you, as you may or may not know, our listeners may or may not know, it's a YouTube PC like review slash entertainment channel. they've gone through a lot of drama in the last week. So basically, the main guy, Linus, has kind of stepped down from a CEO role, and they're kind of making the transition from like a bunch of guys who made like a good YouTube channel to like a legitimate like media work. So they brought in some big gun like COOs and CEOs and stuff to make that transition. Uh, and in doing so, they invested like 30 or 45 million into a lab for testing PC hardware. Okay, and during on the uh, walkthrough that they videotaped for a YouTube video, one of their new guys from like basically another like soulless MBA just coming in and talking about what he doesn't know. But he called out Gamers Nexus, which is a YouTube channel I also follow, who does like really honest reviews, and he's very, very concerned with Gamers Nexus. That is concerned with journalistic integrity and like ethics in the space, and not taking money where you're not supposed to take money, and like doing things in a proper way and supporting yourself so that you can give the truth when you give a review or an article, instead of being coerced to because of money paid for the review for whatever reason, because that's how YouTube is. I'm sure Brian and Seeps know, like a lot of these YouTube tech reviewers, they just get paid money to do a review, give a positive spin on it, and go on their way, and they don't really care. That's kind of what Linus has become. So to put it closely, just to finish like the drama, he called out Gamers Nexus in this video. Gamers Nexus got very upset. He basically called out all the like lowering standards and shitty reviews and mistakes they make, which influence consumers, in like an hour-long video. Linus gets very butthurt. Then he tries to call out Gamers Nexus and like for not being a friend or something, and like not coming to him first and things like that. That doesn't also go very well. Their response was really poor. He just denied and like deflected everything. And then not a short time afterwards, one of the employees that they hired from a PC contest, Madison Reeves, also known as Madison Soup, she basically came out with a bunch of like sexual harassment, poor mental health, toxic work culture type things with receipts that was kind of brushed under the rug. She was apparently touched and groped, and like no one cared. Linus's wife runs HR, and she's the CFO, so it was not a good look. So it was just like a terrible all around.
To
And
say
so,
the least. Not
yeah,
a good look, to say
not
the
a,
least.
to say the least, exactly. So I kind of gave the outline. You guys said you looked into it, so I'm curious to get your opinion, and then I'll finish with what I really think about it. So, Siebes, did you have a chance to look at it? You said you looked at
Yeah,
the
I
Gamers
did.
Nexus video, right? Okay, so what were
So
your thoughts?
I'm coming from it from like a very far distance. Like I don't know much about this
Yeah, I
individual
understand. Yeah.
Linus, but it just kind of sounds like the typical like content creator gets a bag, switches up, and becomes like a terrible person. That's like basically what it kind of seems like happened. But yeah,
That's an apt observation. Like, and I think a lot of people would get that. My contention is that those guys are always kind of assholes, and like if you think about it, like these are the guys who are like, I don't want to say it because I don't know for sure, but what I imagine is a lot of those guys who work at that company were the people who like were getting stuffed into their lockers in 7th and 8th grade because they were nerds.
Oh,
Like,
that's a big assumption, Ashwood. You don't
it
know
is.
that.
You can see, like you can see, and so
I'm
like
not. I kind
it
of
is
get
an
it.
assumption.
I
I could be
kind of
wrong.
get it. I don't necessarily agree, though.
If you saw, even if you saw the people from Linus Tech Tips and the way they act, and like a lot of them are like red pillars too, apparently, and like you
Oh,
could,
I had to know that.
yeah.
I have no
So
idea
like
about any of that.
they're documented. That's what made me lead to believe that like they're just like these angry nerds who now have like a lot of power in the space, and they have a platform in their cloud, and they just don't know how to handle it. They got in over their head, and Linus in particular, he hired his wife, who's a pharmacist, by the way, to do CFO work and to be HR. This young girl like came with earnest like problems, and they kind of brushed it aside. In one of the videos I sent to Sebastian, which was the HR meeting after
I did
that
listen to that
that
one.
young girl left. Yeah, so basically, like if you saw like their idea for fixing HR issues is like you can report it, but it's just better if you go talk to the person you have a problem with, which is like the worst thing you could possibly advise
Yeah,
on a
that is
sexual
not
harassment
HR
page.
advice.
Yeah, and then at the end of the video, I don't know if Seeps heard this, but like one of the guys, one of the red pill guys, basically says to Linus, "Why don't you get up on the table and do a sexy dance for us or something like that?" After he gave the HR meeting, so it's just like really, really bad looks, especially after the girl left like the day after. So, in my opinion, that the rot has gone pretty deep there. As you guys know, I was in PC hardware building and I love it, and I know like 5 or 6 similar like type of channels, and Linus is always my least favorite because I thought that he was the easiest to buy a review from, and now like that because he was getting so big, like when you get that big, you have to play the game and you have to like you have so many connections, and I understand that. Whereas Gaber's Nexus was always my favorite because he's like small and refuses to take money for all those types of things. I'm always more inclined to believe him because I feel like he has a lot of integrity. So when he comes out and does something like that, I know it's with a lot of thought, and it kind of confirmed what I thought about Linus Tech Tips all along. I'm not I'm not on their Patreon. I'm not on their flip plane. I don't really watch their videos. I'm not subscribed to them, so there's nothing that I can really do to show my displeasure. But all I can do is on this podcast that you may is sell Linus Tech Tips. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Really, really busty and unfortunate. Okay, I have a buy as well, which is on a lighter note. I went to Daiso, the store, recently, and it was when I was buying my soccer cleats, and it was by far the most clean shop I've ever seen in my life. Like it was literally like
Daiso?
yeah, sparkling clean. I was walking in, and some like young lady was like trying like mopping up the floor, and I had to comment to her, "This is like the cleanest store I've ever been in." And a good analogy I thought was like if there was an airport to heaven, Daiso would be the duty-free shop in that airport. That's why I can describe it. It's like that's how clean and like pearly white it is. It's like you're literally at the gates of heaven when you go into Daiso. So like I was wildly impressed.
Very,
I,
very convenient. Also, I when I was living in Little Tokyo in LA, there was a Daiso near where I lived, and it was always very convenient to be able to get certain items there for $1 or whatever it was, a quick
Mhm.
towel, soap, etc., etc. So I will plus Daiso, not my buy, but I will plus one to your buy for Daiso.
Okay.
Yeah, I like
Then
Daiso as
let's go to
well.
you, Brian. What's your buy?
My buy?
Yeah, what's your buy or
It's a
sell? Or sell.
combination. I'm on a positive vibe this week, so it is a buy. It's a
Okay.
combination of a couple things. Yesterday, I went to watch like a Coen Brothers movie, an old movie called Raising Arizona,
Interesting.
which is it came out in like 1987. It's a comedy. It has Nick Cage, Holly Hunter, John Goodman,
Ooh.
some other random old actors, and I know the Coen Brothers do like No Country for Old Men, like The Big
One of my
Lebowski and stuff.
favorites for sure. Yeah.
Fargo.
Yeah, like yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so like some of these like huge hitters, and this was one of the first movies that they had, and it's just like a funny comedy of essentially Holly Hunter and Nick Cage are like a couple, and they steal a baby to raise, and they're like kind of a hick couple. And like just kind of the troubles that come with that, and it's like pretty hilarious. And even though it came out, and I looked it up, 1987, like a lot of the themes still hold true of just like young couple, like stupid young couples trying to figure out their way. And John Goodman looks exactly the same, even though the movie came out like 35 years ago. He's like as hilarious as ever. So that would be my buy, like Coen Brothers movies, just because after that I actually went home last night and watched No Country for Old Men, because it's like totally different vibe, but I fucking love that movie. And another, and like the compounded buy is I watched this old movie at one of these like vintage theaters in LA, that they're always showing these old movies or kind of like these indie films, and
That's cool.
really good vibe. It had like it was like $5 for popcorn. The theater was pretty crowded, but everybody was really nice. And so compound buy Coen Brothers and vintage movie theaters
Good
in
buy.
LA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Unique. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Any
yes.
sells, Brian?
No big
Don't feel
sells for
compelled.
me.
Don't feel compelled.
No, I
Okay.
don't think so. Oh, I guess my big sell would be just Big weather, overhyped storms and
Ah,
big weather, dude.
stepping on me.
Sorry, sorry. All right, no, no. I'll pass that off. I'll pass that one off to Sebastian. I'll pass that one
All right,
off.
Steve's go.
That was an assist. That
Brian
was an
stepped
assist.
on me. Stepped on mine. I'm selling local news meteorologists.
Yeah,
I
very good
think
song.
they're replaceable by phones. They're sensationalists, and just pretty much think they're useless.
What about
And
those
like,
ones from Latino stations? Like that one
I
girl
said
who
local. I said local news
Ugh,
meteorologists. So
okay, okay,
English
yeah.
language
The
local news
viral one.
meteorologists. Let me be even more specific.
What's her name?
We don't need to pull her
Yeah,
that
I'll
lovely
like
woman
double
up right now.
I'll double up on I'll double up quickly, not to cut you off, but I was talking to my mom earlier, and our favorite, I won't name him by name, but our favorite weatherman from our high
Dallas
school is on
Rains?
TV.
Yeah, we went to high school with Dallas Rains.
Not that one, not that one. But she's like, "Oh, your friend is reporting on the storm." I always have to say, "Not my friend." Got a reminder, not my friend, but
He's
yeah,
no friend of mine.
Yeah.
no friend of mine. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's just I think they're completely replaceable by a device and an app that's on this device on your cell phone. And I
Very
just
true.
am truly amazed that they make a lot of money, and I'm always
Oh,
amazed
sure.
at this profession still being around. Honestly, like, kudos to Dallas
I mean,
Rains
I
for
feel like
stealing all that money over the years. I mean, when cell phones weren't out, good for him. But nowadays, Dallas Rains is literally just stealing money. I like him. He
I
has
feel
like
like a
a
lot of
funny cartoon character villain vibe, but that's about all
yeah,
Dallas
I
Rains
was gonna
brings to
say
the
I
table.
feel like a lot of weathermen are people who wanted to go into acting and had to take kind of this side detour. Hey, it's a good gig. But
Yeah.
it's still that that the performance aspect. So
No,
they want the attention for not necessarily being great at weather, but for being like a great personality. And I'm not saying
no,
that like to talk shit. Like I think that's like actually it.
I'll take that one step further. I think it's just they really want to be on TV and be famous in any way and anyhow. Like even if they can't be famous for TV shows or like movies, they're on like TV every day and they get people looking at them. That's the type of person, It's the same thing
I
for an actor, I think.
believe that they do have to like get some sort of certification or take classes.
Oh,
They're
for
not
sure.
like
On how to
local
use a
news
green
anchors.
screen.
No, like they have to understand the weather that they're presenting.
If you
Whereas
use
they're not like as useless or like as talentless as like local news anchors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like those people are completely falling into the category of what you're talking about. Like these are people who are definitely just wanting to be
Do
on
you
television.
do you recall the Curb episode with the meteorologist?
No, I don't.
Okay, so like the meteorologist predicts rain, and basically Larry thinks he does it so he can
I
have the
do remember
golf
this now.
golf courses to himself, and then he confronts him, and he's like, it's a good scene. I'll have to put it on.
Yeah, Larry looks at the sky and he's like, hmm? Like, yeah, right?
Yeah, he
Yeah, yeah.
confronts him going down the court. You have any other buys or sells, Sebastian?
No, I'll keep it with that one since we're in this midst of this storm hysteria.
So I forgot one thing, and I was actually kind of curious if you guys felt the same way on the Linus Tech Tip things, and it was like he was a good example of when you get into a hobby, there's always like an entry level like YouTube personality or like
Mm.
person you follow, and then after you actually get good or at the hobby or you like more well worse versed in the hobby, you look back and think, why did I ever like that guy or follow that
Oh,
guy? So like
I
I
have a
gave
different experience.
okay, so like I gave an example, very personal example is like Brian will probably know this, like Purge Dota from Dota.
Sure.
Like when I first started playing Dota, I thought he was hot shit, and then once I like started like actually knowing a little bit more about like what Dota is, and like I realized he's like for the lowest common denominator, and he's
Yeah.
kind of an ass. So
I
like
was
same thing with like Husky Starcraft and Starcraft, or good for golf, and like H3 and H3 for like these YouTube personalities. Like once you realize there's more and there's better things to be had, you're like, why did I even like these people in the first
uh,
place?
yeah, I was gonna say that, and this isn't always the case, but I'm pretty deep in YouTube sometimes for pretty
Yeah, you are.
niche subcultures and things like that. Like for the people that do get very popular, and this isn't always the case. Like you mentioned, it is to appeal to uh, the least common denominator, people who might not be as interested. So they're talking on more sensationalized topics about a particular hobby or something,
Exactly
because
right. Yeah.
that garners the most interest. And as these people get bigger and bigger, I think they get farther and farther actually from kind of the core of what brought them to. Again, this isn't 100% the case,
Yeah, yeah.
but for a lot
Great.
of creators, like I can name a bunch of creators that like are very popular but are still very entertaining. I don't know, like Moist Critical or something like that, right? He's
I
very
have, yeah.
extremely popular, but
I
I think
saw
that's
it.
just what tends to be the case with somebody like Linus Tech Tips. And just a quick note on Linus Tech Tips, and just YouTubers in general, it's like I don't know why it always is, but there's always this line that they always end up being terrible people
Yeah.
once
Eh,
they hit a level of fame.
sort of.
Again, not always, but
Very
like
true. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Sebastian, you said you didn't know Linus Tech Tips as much, but like he has always been that example of, you know, how could you hate Linus Tech Tips? All he does is computer reviews, like how could you hate this guy? And like even this guy turns out to be kind of a piece of shit. So it's like, oh wow, even Linus Tech Tips can't be saved from the evils of fame and
It's
money.
I will shout
paper.
out one
Yeah, go ahead.
hobby creator since we're on this discussion. I was thinking about this today because there's a dude who, when I got into vaping a very long time ago, named Phil Busardo, aka P Busardo. He
Okay.
does like a bunch of reviews for different devices, and I stopped watching his content like a long time ago. But his content was always very useful. And then like I got recommended one of his videos out of the blue, and it was like a recent one, and I was like, "Oh, nice, dude! P Busardo's
Recently.
still at it. Yeah, he was still at it, doing like good services for these people, and still seems like a good guy. Always discloses like, yeah, I
Yeah,
was
fair
sent
enough.
this by the company, like so just getting that out the way. And he's honest, like he never short sells something or oversells something. It's always truthful.
Yeah,
And so
transparent.
long live
That
Phil
is
Busardo.
that is an exception to the rule, and that's why it's so dank when
And
you
but
find it.
then I have another one who
Okay.
he's a language learning YouTube. He's one of these bullshit YouTube polyglots. Luca Lampariello. He claims to know like probably 20 languages, and he has the Luca method for learning languages. And when I first got into like learning Chinese, I was like, oh man,
Bro,
like
I can see Brian's looking him up.
this guy this guy this guy makes language learning seem so easy. And then like I started learning languages, and I was like, this guy doesn't know shit. Like he doesn't actually know how to say any of these languages. He knows a surface level how to say like 20
Right.
words. And then
That's
like
Right.
exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
there's been tons of videos doing exposés on how he's just a con artist and a sack of shit, basically. And I'm very appreciative of those content creators who are counteracting the Luca language learning method, because fuck that guy. That's what I'll say, basically. Outright,
You
fuck that guy.
you know exactly what I'm talking about then, Seems like you've
Yes.
experienced it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
both sides of the spectrum, I understand, yeah.
Yeah.
I think with the YouTube polyglots also, that tends to be not always, but a lot of these guys, it's like, I learned, Swahili in 3 days, and they're able to say
Yes.
like hi, they're able to say hello, and also like what's your name or something like that. And it's like,
How's
all
your
right,
day
man.
going?
It's like,
Like my
yeah,
day's
yeah,
going.
right.
Like if you
Yeah,
play
it's like, no,
basketball.
man.
Okay,
Yeah,
fuck you,
It's like,
Like
yeah,
the
yeah,
guy
scumbag.
who can read 5 books in like 10 seconds. That video's an
yeah,
all-timer, dude.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
It's
pretty much.
also like the worst type of content, because when you're first trying to get into learning a language, you get slightly discouraged because you're like, man, look at these guys, they're doing it so easy. Why is it so hard for me? And it's like,
Yeah,
because I'm actually learning the language. That's like basically what you have to tell yourself. Whereas these people are like
yeah,
scam artists. But yeah, that's a
yeah.
separate subject.
Okay, let's move into top five. We did Return of the Buy or Sell in the top five this week since we missed it last week. I chose the top five for this week. It was top five desserts. As anyone who knows me knows, I like desserts, so it was very easy for me. We'll see how easy it is for these guys. I have very specific desserts. Like I chose exact dishes because I know them, but I'll go second. Why doesn't Brian go first, and then we'll end with Sebastian?
Oh
Okay.
no.
I'll provide some context. I do like sweets, but I don't ever crave sweets. So I'm not a
Fair.
huge dessert guy. But I would actually say when I was thinking about it, my list did not come very difficult for me. I was able to think of 5 things that I enjoy quite a bit. Starting with number 5, I do like crepes, like sweet crepes, especially if you could put some ice cream on that and then like some chocolate fudge or something. I'm a big crepes fan, so that's a strong beginning to my list. And most of these um, are some sort of chocolate based thing because I just love chocolate. The number 4 is just a straightforward chocolate cake. I do think something very simple. If you go to Dairy Queen or something, or you go to Albertsons or
I don't know
Pavilions
about
and just
that
get a
one, but
chocolate
okay.
Yeah,
cake. Well, chocolate
bottom
cake is
five.
great, man.
Bottom 5
Chocolate
dessert.
cake. Chocolate cake is great.
Yeah.
And then
Only Bill Cosby's
uh,
skit about chocolate cake is good.
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that name. My bad.
I'm a little concerned as I go up my list. Then number 3 is just like brownies with fudge.
That's
Like I really
acceptable.
like brownies.
Better. That's better.
I like brownies. It's a childhood snack for me. I used to always munch on brownies a lot. Number 2 would be tiramisu. I do
Good call.
enjoy tiramisu quite a bit. Every time I go to a restaurant that has it on the menu, I'll probably get that. And then for the last one, it's just cookie dough ice cream. Ice cream is my favorite sweet or my favorite dessert, and cookie dough is for me like the most functional dessert. Like I'll never turn down cookie dough ice cream. Everything else, I think there has to be some context for it. But for me, even though I do will reject dessert most of the time in favor of just more savory food, I most of the time will not turn down cookie dough ice cream. So that had to be
Oh,
number 1 for me.
Cookie dough everything.
Thank yeah.
Raw cookie dough.
Yeah. It has to have the cookie dough ice cream has to have the cookie dough, the raw cookie dough in it. Yeah. Like the chunks. It has to have it in it. So 100%.
Surprisingly good top 5. I just will.
thank
I
you.
think me and Siebes will agree that chocolate cake is kind of a miss.
I think this might be
with
like
the milk,
the first
with
time.
the milk, man.
I think this might be like the first time that Brian's definitively gonna lose a top 5.
with the chocolate cake, dude, with the milk.
It's like we're not in
Chocolate
the
cake's one of the worst
1960s, Brian.
desserts.
Like,
All right, whatever, man.
like,
Living, you're on that Mad Men vibe a little too much.
Yeah, it's like something out of like I don't know, a
Yes,
Bison
man.
County,
Oh,
like buy some chocolate cake or something.
No, like if
Whatever,
it's a
man.
chocolate lava cake, it's kind of acceptable.
I mean, it's all the same, right?
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of chocolate sponge.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I like chocolate cake. Well, move on.
No,
All
yeah.
right. Ashwin, you're next, all right?
Okay. Where is it? Okay. So I'll start with my number 5. It's Thai tea slush boba with crushed Oreos.
Oh yeah, come on, man. Oh yeah. Yeah, this guy's from Orange County, dude. Yeah, this guy's for sure from Orange County, dude. Get the hell out of here with the boba, man.
It's delicious, though. I'm not even gonna hate on you.
It's delicious. Yeah.
That's very Ashwin, dude. That's so
Yeah.
Ashwin.
It's I used to get it from class 302 for many years.
Oh my god.
Do the double Oreo and like the boba. It's excellent. You should try it.
I'm not even gonna hate. It is delicious.
All right, fair enough.
That's number 5. Well, go ahead. You say something, Steve?
It is just very Ashwin, as Brian said.
Okay. Number 4 is a good chocolate chip cookie with milk, but I think in parentheses I put Bazooki.
I probably should have done that.
Yeah, you'll have a lot of. I should have done that.
Yeah. Pazuki is pretty good.
So number 3, I did a milkshake. The 3 stores I actually chose when I'm doing specifics. The Chick-fil-A Oreo shake was the first shake that I ate. I was like, wow, that's literally fantastic from the first sip. And then 2 more strange ones that I don't think people think about that are actually very good in my opinion is one is the Wiener Schnitzel one, and 2 is the Jack in the Box one. I think they're both excellent. Oreo.
I'm surprised you didn't put Sonic on there.
I like Sonic, but I don't really get the Oreo stuff there. I get the cherry ice cream slush.
Oh, that's very good.
That's my go-to. The ice cream slushes in general.
Yeah.
Number 2 is ice cream / gelato. I would prefer gelato, but my ice cream order is Cold Stone, and I'll tell you guys. So when you go, you can get it and you'll enjoy it just like me. So it's a sweet cream ice cream with Twix, double Oreo, fudge, and brownies. It's a variation of the Oreo.
That's a lot of mix-ins, bro.
Yeah, and you
A
gotta
lot
get
of
it.
mix-ins, Ashwin.
That cost him
Gotta
like
get
$20.
it. Gotta love it. Gotta have the right term?
Gotta have it, I think.
Gotta
The
have
biggest
it.
one.
Yeah. Gotta have
like-
it size.
Is that like
Yeah.
$20?
It's like $12, $13.
So,
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's not more.
It can be pretty pricey, yeah. That's what it was last time I got it, at least. So that's number 2. Number 1 is my favorite like dessert that I crave and wish I could get every day, or at least like on a consistent basis, is cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory.
Mm.
And the 2 flavors I would like are the Oreo one or the s'mores one.
Oh,
Both are fantastic in my
wow.
opinion. Yeah. Yeah.
Great list.
So that's my top 5. Thank you.
So, very good list. Definitely above Brian's, I'd say.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm curious to hear what yours are, Sebastian.
So, we've kind of shuffled it around after hearing some of these, but so at 5, we're gonna go with I'm a big fan of the cheap like Costco cake with the buttercream frosting and the cheesecake filling. I think it's delicious. I really like their frosting.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
mainly just a frosting sell. I'm a big frosting guy. Then 4, we're gonna go with cream puffs. Big fan of cream puffs with like a little powdered sugar on top.
That's a
Oh,
throwback.
interesting.
I used to eat those a lot, like chow them
Delicious.
down.
Yeah. 3, we're going with peach cobbler.
They're very addicting.
Yeah.
Oh.
Big peach cobbler guy. A little bit warm with like some whipped cream. Delicious. 2, we'll go with. There's gonna be some overlap with Ashwin, but the s'mores cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory.
Hey, very good, very good. Great minds think
That's why I
alike.
started laughing.
Connoisseurs, dude. True connoisseurs. True connoisseurs.
I know, because we
used to
Bool chain
order it
for
on
many
DoorDash
years,
all
and
the time.
we used to order it. Yeah. Exactly.
And then
one for that night and one for later. Yeah.
yeah, that was a bad point in my life, to be fair, with the food I was eating, but
That's very
don't
true.
regret how delicious it was. And then 1 was Iranian pistachio ice cream with rose water and saffron. To me,
It is
it's
good.
the best dessert. And then I had honorable mention,
Oh,
ironically, cake batter ice cream from Cold Stone.
Oh, yeah, I like cake.
So
I'm getting into cake batter type thing, yeah.
I'm a big fan of the cake batter ice cream. So yeah, Ashwin, very similar list in certain regards.
So now I have to think about an honorable mention now.
Also had like Reese's, but that's like pretty basic. It's not really a dessert.
sure.
It's just like a chocolate.
That's what I was gonna say. I like Butterfingers a lot, and maybe that's my
The candy bar is pretty plain, man. I thought
It's
about
not dessert. That's not a dessert though. It's kind of just like a snack. Like I had
also just
Sebastian's
ass.
face when I said it. No, they're so good, dude.
I
They're
was
so good.
As a kid, I really hated them, but as I've grown older, I've like seen that they're not terrible.
my honorable mention would probably be tiramisu. I like tiramisu a lot. Or I think about it when I do the graphic, everyone will see. Hang tight for that, okay? Brian, your honorable mention you already gave, so I think that's it for this week. It was kind of a chill podcast. Didn't have anything really pressing to talk about, but sports are about to pick up really soon, so I'm excited to talk about NBA, football, soccer as well with you guys in the coming weeks. Brian, you have song of the week this week, right?
Yes. So yeah, just the song is a song called "Smoking Section" by Steve Dries. He's just a small artist from New York. He does like some house music. It's a little bit more, how do I say, like low tempo, like loungy house. I do have I got into him because I was going to switch it up and have another one of his songs that is actually more like a like an Afrobeat thing because he's like a producer. But as I was going through his music, this one stuck out to me.
All right, see you guys next
so
week.
it
Thanks
is
for tuning in.
"Smoking Section" by Steve Dries.
Peace.
Nice.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Peace.
Talk to you. Go outside. Smoking section, so electric on my mind. So infectious, put my neck lit. Go outside. Smoking section, so electric on my mind. So infectious.
I'm so faded. Yeah, don't wanna try, I complicated.